Be strong.
Ji-hai is still there thinking about what Dokja has told her today, while Pildogong is still in his green zone relaxing. The main scenario again appears in front of them, and 5 hours remain until the third scenario is activated. From now on, it's a battle against time, so they must be quick and make their move before the Landlord Coalition finds out. He wants Huiwon and Sangha to take Gilyong to platform number 4, and they will go toward a green zone. The people there seem to be sacred, seeing them and asking them not to come near them. Huiwon apologizes to them and attacks them with her sword. At the same time, Hyunseong calls Dokja and says he doesn't feel so sure about this. The others are counting on him to make this work, but he is worried because he doesn't know if he can do this. Dokja is concerned about what he is saying because he is the center of this operation and runs away, saying he can rely on him. Hyunseong thanks him for saying so because this is the first time anyone's even depended on him. He says no one ever relied on him, even in the army, and he doesn't think he has read about this in TWSA. Dokja says he wants to hear more about him when this is all over. Hyunseong says he gets a strange feeling when he is talking to him, and it is as if he has known him for a long time. He is notified that Hyunseong is beginning to open up to him, and his understanding of Hyunseong has increased dramatically. They are talking to each other when Pildo's men call them and ask if they have come here to make a deal and ask where their friends are. They have grabbed a girl by her hair and she is requesting them for help. They ask them not to worry about her because she refused to sell them her room. Hyunseong seems angry to see this and asks them to let the girl go, but they also get angry and ask who he is to order them around like that. It is noted that Hyunseong wants to act out justice out of free will, and his attributes are almost ready to blossom. Dokja thinks he needs to maximize his stat growth with minimum investments there, and he will need the coins for something else later. He spent his 1200 coins on stamina and 1200 on strength. They both rush toward them to attack and hear a strange voice coming from a side. Dokja moves swiftly and kills one of them in just one attack. The man cries in pain, and he now commands Hyunseong to go and attack them. Pildo's men observe their fighting and inform him about this, but they run toward them with their full power. They try to stop them, but Hyunseong hits one of them with his shield and makes him fall, and he is notified that Hyunseong has activated the Stigma, Great Mountain Push Level 1. They have trespassed into private property, and the Stigma, Militarized Zone, Level 4, of the character Pildo has been activated. The fire gun starts attacking, while Hyunseong tries to stop him and throws his shield toward him to protect him from the fire. He makes the barrier of the shield and saves himself from fire. There is an explosion there, but they stay unharmed, and he is notified that his stamina has reached over level 20 due to the effects of unbreakable faith, and his hardened body protects him like a plate of armor. Pildo gets up and says it doesn't look like he has come there to pay him and asks him about what he wants. Dokja observes that he has upgraded his militarizes zone skill, and he tells him that he has decided to give up on squatting. Pildo asks him if he is after his property, and there is a notification that Pildo's mini-turrets are being loaded with enhanced magic bullets. He is about to attack them when one of his men comes to him, and Dokja observes that a long blade has wounded him and tells him something about Ji-hai. He commands Hyunseong, says it's time for him to act, and asks him to give them hell. Hyunseong's attributes started blossoming, and Dokja's operation was planned to blossom his attributes. This was one of his favorite scenes from TWSA. Seeing it happen before his eyes overwhelmed him. This is the reason why he was one of the strongest supporting characters in TWSA, and a new stigma has been unlocked with the blossoming of his attributes. He thinks no one can match Hyunseong's power in TWSA when he uses this skill, and he activates his stigma, Great Mountain Crush, level 1, and punches the ground with his full might. Everyone is shocked and scared to see that the floor is cracking open. He has destroyed the green zone, and Pildo's private property has been demolished. Hyunseong calls Dokja and asks if he still wants to hear his story when this is all over, and he says he also wants to hear his story. He wants to get to know him more, and Dokja is shocked at a supporting character from a novel he read and is interested in learning about him. He says he will end up boring him, but Hyunseong says he is still curious about him. Suddenly, they hear a voice from a side where a man calls them for help. They go toward the place where Pildo is lying on the ground, and Dokja says they have to end him first. Dokja smiles and says he will let him take a trip back to a time when none of them owned any private property. After some time, they go to Huiwen and Sangha and are shocked to see many dead bodies there. Dokja asks Huiwen if she destroyed them all, and she replies that she has killed everyone. Dokja is shocked to see this and says he did not realize she could destroy rooms like this. Huiwen tells him that they bashed the floor and it collapsed. He thinks he asked Sangha, Huiwen, and Gilyong to eliminate the smaller green zones, except for the ones that belonged to Pildo Gong, and most of them had a maximum capacity of less than 3 people. Dokkaebi is shocked by his action and asks what he plans to do. He tells him that all the Dokkaebis in Chungmuro are up in arms because of what he did. Dokja keeps his hands on his ears and asks him to pipe down, saying he has had enough of a headache because of all the messages from the constellations. At the same time, the constellations are impressed by the chaos he has created and are excited to see what he will do next. They also gift him 300 coins for this, and Dokkaebi asks him not to forget that he is not the only Dokkaebi in Chungmuro and many other Dokkaebis are there. He asks him which channel Pildu belongs to, and he replies that it was of Biryu, the Dokkaebi who took over his channel before. His audience is mostly thrill seekers. In the meantime, Jihai comes to him and asks if he destroyed them all, and he thinks he asked Jihai's help for green zones with the capacity of 5 to 8 men. They are areas where it would be difficult for Huiwen to do the job alone, and she is indeed Younghyok's disciple and destroyed the green zones easily. Currently, everyone is mad at them, and they all rush toward them to attack. They have surrounded them all, and in the meantime, a bounty hunter scenario has been started. Their attribute windows appear in front of them, and it is clear condition that the constellation of Channel Birth 3642 put a hit out on the incarnation of Dokja Kim of Chungmuro Station. Jihai leaves by saying she will not help him this time, and Dokja says he doesn't need her help. Huiwen smiles and asks if they will get 2,000 coins if they kill him now, and Dokja asks her if she wants to do this. Hyunseong comes forward and asks him to get behind him, and he checks his character profile, and he asks her how many times he can use his kill from before. He replies that he can use 2 times at most, and he urges Gilyong to relax because they are not the only ones they will be fighting. He doesn't remember which chapter, but he remembers reading in TWSA that Younghyok, who had gone mad due to repeated regression, destroyed all the green zones when he arrived in Chungmuro. At this moment, the conditions are identical, and all the people are notified that all the green zones in the station have been destroyed. The central scenario system has been overloaded. The difficulty of the current scenario will be adjusted according to the remaining scenario duration, and it is revealed that the present scenario has been renewed. The conditions of the scenario have changed, and this time they have to spawn the remaining monsters at once and survive the onslaught of monsters for the remaining duration. The monsters come toward them, and the emergency defense has begun. The people are scared to see the monsters. They run to save their lives, and the situation is not good. Dokja also starts running and asks Hyunseong to run towards the stairs. They all reach the stairs, and he uses his sword to hit it to the ground. He says they won't survive even if they make it up there. Suddenly, an immense amount of light emits from the ground, and Dokja thinks there are no more rooms in Chungmuro, and there is only one way to survive. He has destroyed the stairs so that no one can come up there, and the people ask him what he wants them to do. Dokja asks them to fight for the sake of their lives, and they abuse him, saying he destroyed their rooms. They plan to use the other stairs, but Hyunseong uses his skill from earlier and destroys the stairs. Huiwen says this is not what he said would happen, and at this rate, they all will die. Dokja replies that he already knows about this and activates his personal skill bookmark. He starts his skill bookmark number 3, and its activation time is 5 minutes. He then calls Pildo and asks if he is going to stand there like an idiot and if he doesn't want to live. He says that Pildo can save everyone with his powers while he is staring at it furiously. All the people rush toward him and beg him to save them, and Dokja says the third scenario isn't that hard to clear, and if they all give up the room, the scenario will spawn a number of monsters that they can handle. He thinks if everyone in Chungro had banded together to fight, then more people would have survived, but the actual trap of this scenario was the green zone. The people are now requesting Pildo to help them and say they can all survive if they fight alongside everyone else. Pildo doesn't see fine with the situation and asks everyone to gather around him. He tries to calm them, saying that the militarized zone takes some time to set up and asks them to hold them back for a little while. The people are trying to push away the monsters so that he can rebuild the zone for them. Dokja calls Sangha and asks her to throw her light thread to bring the people upstairs. She saves a man who fist thanks her and then stares at Dokja angrily. In the meantime, they are notified that the bounty hunter scenario has timed out, and the bounty on Dokja's head has been removed. He smiles and says it's too late now, and the boy is sorry for him. Suddenly, Pildo activates his skill, Private Property, level 3, and a large number of monsters rush toward them to attack. He activates his Stigma, Militarized Zone, level 4, and starts attacking them. Hyunseong is impressed by his Stigma, and Dokja thinks he seems to be using up a lot of mana. His Stigma is pretty mana efficient, which means he should be fine alone for now. He asks others to sit back and enjoy the show for now and is thinking of sleeping for a while. Hyunseong asks him if it is okay for him to sleep in this situation, and Dokja replies they should feel lucky that they are with him. However, he exclaims that Pildo and his gang are not fortunate for today. Soon, Pildo gets tired and shouts loudly that they should die, and he also levels up his Private Property skill. He leveled up his Militarized Zone skill to activate his fire guns and acquired the skill barrier. Dokja and his team are watching them fighting quietly from a distance. It has been an hour since the battle began, and Pildo has leveled up considerably. Dokja thinks this has put his supporting constellation in quite a spot. He wonders how long he will be able to keep sponsoring him like this. Jijai laughs at his situation and says he seems to have aged quite already, and Dokja remembers she asked him to help them just a moment ago and is now laughing at their situation. Meanwhile, Huiwen actually fell asleep. He asks Jihai about Younghyuk, who doesn't know about him and says he is always busy. He asks her when Younghyuk entered the dungeon, and she tells him it was around 9 in the morning. Suddenly, she realized and asked how he knew about this. Dokja thought it was 8 in the evening now, so it had been about 11 hours since he had entered the dungeon. But seeing how he is still not out means he has to make his move. He calls Dokkaebi and asks if he can open the shop for a second, but he refuses, saying his subscriber count is skyrocketing right now. Dokja warns him to open the shop if he doesn't want to lose all of his subscribers, and Dokkaebi sees him disliked because he doesn't want to do this at the moment. He then opened the shop and spent his 5,000 coins to upgrade his membership to gold, and now he has become a gold member of the Dokkaebi shop. He obtained some items, and Sangha asked him surprisingly about what they were. The first item is the support contract, and the second one is the medium mana recovery potion. He has spent 15,000 coins on his purchases. Dokkaebi asks him why he bought that contract and remembers their agreement that he promised not to sign with a supporting constellation. Dokja ignores him and writes something on the contract in the employee's name. This is a contract that turns the employer into an employee. After some time, the third scenario again appears in front of them, which says they have to survive the monsters. It has been an hour and a half since the scenario began, and Pildo still has 6 hours and 30 minutes to go. Hyunseong and Gilyong got some supplies on their way back from the restroom. Dokja thinks the constellations of Pildo's channel are mostly thrill seekers, and most of them should have left the channel already or stopped gifting his coins because of how boring it has become to watch. He has a limit to how much he can sponsor, but he wouldn't want to let his incarnation die like this. He sees a notification that Pilots' supporting constellation asks others for help, and Dokja smiles at the notification that the other constellations are snorting at the request. He calls Pildo and asks if he is just going to die there like this, and offers him to sign a contract with him. He shows him his contract and says he can't be a supporting constellation since he is not a constellation, but he can still sponsor him. He asks him to answer him, and he will give him all of this if he signs his contract. The Constellation Defense Master is shocked by his suggestion. Dokkaebi is also shocked and says he has never seen anyone who has offered to sponsor a constellation before. He asks Dokja if he is sure that Pildo's constellation will make a deal with a mere human. Dokja knows that Pildo and his constellation have no more coins left and thinks this constellation's home world has already perished during a previous scenario. So the Defense Master's stories have long been erased from people's memories. Stories are referred to as the account of incidents or events, and in the world of the star stream, it is a source of power. It is revealed that the constellations without stories cannot earn cons, and constellations cannot support new incarnations without any coins. When a constellation fails to spread its stories through its incarnation, they are forgotten and perished. In reality, the constellations do not like they care about their incarnations, as in the case of Pildo. And now, if he sees Pildo dying, it means he is out of coins. Songha is shocked to see his situation and says he will die at this rate, while Dokja thinks he will die if they don't stop in. He wonders if the Defense Master wants to see his incarnation die in front of him. Suddenly, he is notified that the Constellation Defense Master wants to know the terms of the contract, and Dokkaebi is shocked to see that the Defense Master has begun to review the agreement. Dokja smiles at the notification that the Constellation Defense Master is asking for some time to consider the contract. Pildo is shocked and asks what is happening there, while Dokja believes he has been sold off. After a while, the Constellation Defense Master added new clauses to the contract, and he agreed to the contract if Dokja concurred with the new provisions. One clause is that the employer must respect the employee's property rights and must guarantee Pildo's right to live, and the second one is that he must assist Pildo in his betterment. Dokja thinks he was already planning to put him under training, so he doesn't mind with these clauses. Currently, what matters to him the most is Clause 3, which states that the employer will be given authority over the employee's property, Pildo Gong, effective at the moment the contract is signed. He agrees to the conditions and is notified that the contract has been agreed upon. He then throws a recovery potion toward Pildo and asks him to stop the monsters. He asks him to take the potion and fight while Songha throws her light thread toward him. Pildo takes the potion and says he will never forgive him for this, and by taking the potion, his mana has recovered. He shouts at him, saying he will kill him once he gets out of there, but Dokja has the authority to command as per the contract, so he asks him to shut up. Everyone is impressed by this skill, and Dokja asks him to get back to fighting and not mess with any of his friends. Dokkaebi calls him and asks if this was all he was after all this time, while he is notified that the Constellation secretive plotter is intrigued by his idea. He then leaves, saying he must be somewhere else for a while. Jihai asks him where he is going, and he exclaims that there is the man who went off to find a rare item while people are dying there. He thinks Younghyuk had let go amidst the excruciating pain, and he remembers Younghyuk gave up, and this was the end of Younghyuk's 8th regression. He is shocked to read that Younghyuk will give up soon and thinks there is no way it could have happened. Huiwen appears and asks what he is looking at while pondering why he didn't play safe when he is only in his 3rd regression. He replies to Huiwen that he is just checking his calendar, but she asks him whom he is talking about or if he is worse than Pildo. He tells Huiwen and Gilyong to go with them and leaves Hyunseong and Sangha to keep an eye on Pildo. He will stop the monsters there, so it will be safer for them, and ask them to throw him a potion every 40 minutes. He also asks them to sit back and keep an eye on him, but he is more worried about Younghyuk than Pildo. Suddenly, Jihai calls him from behind and asks where he is going. He also asks her to come with them and tells her that Younghyuk is in danger and they should help him. He thinks Jung-hyuk challenged Chungmuro's hidden dungeon 8 times altogether in TWSA, failed 2 times, and succeeded 6 times. He died in the dungeon during his 8th and 11th regression, but right now he is only in his 3rd regression. He asks Jihai if he went to the hidden dungeon in exit number 1 and has been there for 11 hours now. If his hunch is correct, the regressor should be headed to his demise, and he will die today. After some time, they discovered a hidden dungeon under Dihen Cinema, but it had already been found, so the discovery achievement could not be obtained. However, a new hidden scenario has arrived, and the scenario appears before them. They have to defeat the master of the cinema dungeon, and the reward is 4,000 coins. They enter the cinema dungeon, and Jihai asks him if he is sure that her master is really in danger. She asks him how he knows about this and why he is trying to save him, and a notification appears there saying the constellation secretive plotter is curious to know why. Dokja replies that's what companions are for, and he is trying to save him because he is useful. He thinks it's no wonder that Jihai and the constellations are puzzled to see him rush to save someone who is out for his neck every chance he gets. He is surprised that the constellation demonic judge of fire is impressed that he is trying to put his fallen friend back on the righteous path, and Dokja thinks it looks like he misread his intentions. He remembers something Jung-hyuk said when his regression count reached double digits. He asks him what happened to the world after his regress, and he also doesn't know about this and says he just picked the world where the most people can be saved. Dokja thinks it sounds noble at a glance, but he says he doesn't care about the world he's abandoned. There was no mention of the worlds that Jung-hyuk had left anywhere in TWSA, whether it was science, magic, or whatever. He wonders what happened in a world where the regressor has died. He wonders if everything reset along with the regressor, or if the world continues to exist like a parallel universe. He thinks he would be relieved if it was the former, but in the latter's case, he is there to stop Jung-hyuk from regressing by death. Meanwhile, Gil-young calls him and asks him to show the posters that have been ripped. He asks others to head upstairs, and Hwee-won asks Ji-hee if she is good with swords. She replies that she is experienced with swords because she loves swords, and Hwee-won says cutting something is exhilarating. She likes Jihai's sword, and she tells her that her master gave it to her and asks her to show her sword. Hwee-won hides her sword and says her sword is also pretty good, while Dokja suddenly feels sorry. He asks Jihai why she can't talk to him like she talks to Hwee-won, and she replies that she admires cool older women. Gil-young feels someone's presence there and grabs Dokja's shirt to inform him about this. He asks everyone to keep quiet and wonders if he feels Jung-hyuk's presence there. They hear some men talking about ripping the cinema posters, and they are talking about the 1,000 coins they have paid to the prophets. Dokja whispers that they must have entered through the ground floor entrance, and Jihai says they have never seen them in Chungmuro. She is surprised to hear about the ground floor and wonders about the poison gas. Dokja says each station has a different scenario of varying durations, and they must have completed theirs before they did. He thinks that as for the poison, the meat of a subterranean monster will take care of that, and he has never seen them mentioned in any of Jung-hyuk's regressions. At this point in time, Jung-hyuk and he should be the only ones who know about the hidden dungeon, and he wonders what is triggering this change. The boys now decide to head into the dungeon, and a light falls on them. Dokja and others are shocked to see them, and the boys disappear before their eyes. He is surprised to see all the torn posters, only one is untouched. He reads a line that a time forgotten by mankind recreated and thinks Jung-hyuk left all the posters behind. Suddenly, the same light falls on them, and they are shocked at what is happening there. Dokja asks Hwee-won if she likes the movies. If she does, she might begin to hate them. They are notified that the projection beam has shot them, and the screening will now begin for their floor. They also disappear and reach the other site. The place looks like a forest, and Jihai asks him, shocked, where they are. Dokja replies that they are inside a movie and think this world has been created by the cinema master, who will be on the 8th floor of this dungeon. The cinema dungeon's main attractions are the stages hidden within the posters. He thinks Young-hyuk had planned to clear all the stages and keep the rewards for himself. Hwee-won is worried because things keep getting increasingly complicated and they wonder what movie this should be. Suddenly, they see Gil-young going to a side and Ji-hae tries to stop him from going anywhere. A giant bug is about to attack him and Ji-hae attacks the bug, trying to save Gil-young. This is a Titanoptera, an insect from the Triassic period, and they are shocked to see that Gil-young grabs the bug and kisses it. He starts playing with the insect, and Ji-hae surprisingly asks Dokja about the problem with him. He knows that he has an issue named Jean Henry Faber, and they might be able to get through this without much of an issue. Young-hyuk must have skilled this stage based on its theme because most rewards correlate to the theme of the movie the cinema dungeon is based on. He thinks Young-hyuk probably didn't know that this stage could give them a very important reward. Suddenly, Gil-young calls him because he feels someone's presence there. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking, and they see some people running from the side, calling for help. Ji-hae recognizes them that they are men from earlier, and they think now they know which movie they have sped in by seeing a monster. Dokja knows that it's a Tier 7 beast monster and thinks the harder a hidden dungeon is, the better the rewards. The monster runs toward them while they all run to save their lives. They are all running to save them, but the monster runs behind them and attacks one of them to kill him. After that, they also notified that the Tier 7 dragon species Tyrannosaurus rex has become aware of their presence. Dokja grabs a stick for self-defense, and Ji-hae asks him if he wants to fight with that thing. He replies that they have to fight him if they want to open the exit. He thinks the building should be the central research lab and asks them to remember that they are in a movie. They have to give it a fantastic finale. The monster activates its skill, Carnivorous Fear, but Dokja's personal skill blocks his skill's effect. He asks Gil-hyun to get behind him and Hwee-won and Ji-hae to spread out. In the meantime, Gil-young activates his skill, Dinosaur Encyclopedia, and says Tyrannosauruses are more agile than they look. Still, they have a narrow vision and are vulnerable to side attacks. He read about it in an encyclopedia when he was young, which means when he was much younger than now. In the meantime, the dinosaur rushes toward them, and Ji-hae asks them to run behind when she will dodge it. Dokja is relieved to see them fighting and thinks they know what they are doing. He is the only person who's fit to be a tank at the moment, and he is notified that the Tier 7 land dragon species Tyrannosaurus rex has chosen him as its target. He thinks Ji-hae and Hwee-won should be able to kill that thing while he is distracting it. Gil-young calls him, says he will distract it, and says he can do it, while Dokja is shocked because he is supposed to get behind him. Gil-young faces the monster and throws his insect towards it, which attacks its eyes. The dinosaur cries in pain, while Dokja is surprised to see his trick and thinks it's no wonder that Young-hyuk wanted to take him away. He then commands Ji-hae and Hwee-won to attack him at the moment, and they both hit the dragon with their swords. In the meantime, Dokja activates his Unbreakable Faith's special property, and the ether affix is changed to fire. He jumps upon the monster and stabs his sword in its body. He slashes through its body and drags it behind the sword. Others are shocked to see him doing this trick. He angrily attacks the dinosaur and burns it away while everyone watches him die there. Soon, the monster has been defeated and falls to the ground, and he is notified that he is the first to successfully hunt a Tier 7 land dragon species, Tyrannosaurus rex. He has received 1,000 coins for his achievement. They then move toward an injured boy, and Dokja gives him some water and asks him to take deep breaths slowly. He tries to drink the water, but his wounds are too deep, and he won't be able to survive. Dokja asks him how he knew about this place, and he replies that the prophets told them about it. He tells him that prophets are the guardians of the revelation, and with this, the man dies before him. Dokja is shocked to hear about this and thinks a revelation is fascinating and ridiculous. The only person to have such an ability in TWSA is Anna Croft, who has the future vision skill. He then asks others to take a quick break and thinks it's obvious, seeing that they sent someone else other than coming there themselves, that there must be others like him out there. After some time, he is surprised to see many options out there, which contain stamina amplification, mana, agility, and strength amplification ampule. He looks towards others eating dinosaur meat, and they find it so delicious that he is about to cry. Huiwen says it's amazing to see everything in the movie recreated like this. Jihai notices him doing something and asks him about the potions. She calls Huiwen and tells her that he is trying to hide the potions and asks her to give her the strength ampules as a helpless little girl like herself needs them. Dokja wonders if she really thinks he will fall for her trick, but Huiwen says Dokja has found them so that he will distribute them. Dokja believes he doesn't want to give her any since she's with Younghyuk. A few constellations fond of monopoly are displeased with the situation, and the constellation Demonic Judge of Fire expects them to be fair. He asks them to play rock, paper, and scissors, and the winner takes an ampule for every round. The first players are Jihai and Dokja, and he activates his personal skill, Omniscient Reader, level 1, and is already notified that she is about to play scissors. At last, she loses all rounds, and they continue their journey. Huiwen asks if he is sure they ended the movie right because she doesn't think anyone hunted down a Tyrannosaurus Rex in the film. Dokja believes this is more fun this way, and it is fine since the genre is action-adventure fantasy. He is notified that the cinema master is happy with the movie's ending, and he can now move on to the next floor. He thinks the key to clearing this dungeon is not to recreate the movie's actual endings, but to produce an ending that pleases the cinema master. Meanwhile, Gilyong says goodbye to his insect because they can't take the monsters they find in a level of the cinema dungeon. All they can take with them are the items of the stat amplification ampules they saw earlier. Huiwen and Gilyong have 2 potions. Dokja has 16, while Jihai has no potion. He also got an ampule as a reward for taking down the T-Rex. The item is called Engridge T-Rex DNA Ampule, which increases all stats by 10 for a 30-minute duration. Dokja thinks he can only be used in the cinema dungeon, but can't beat the final floor without it. They are traveling in a helicopter and soon reach the first ending credit. The movie's cast is Dokja Kim, Huiwen Jeong, Jihai Lee, and Gilyong Lee, and they have each received 500 coins for their performance. The hidden scenario again appears there, saying they have to defeat the master of the cinema dungeon and the reward will be 4,000 coins. They enter a building, and Jihai asks him how many more floors they have to clear. He replies that Younghyuk should have already shed some, so it shouldn't take too long. She asks Huiwen if they can only enter the movies where the poster hasn't been ripped, and she tells him that the poster seems to have torn after they cleared it. Dokja asks them to get hurry because they don't know how many more movies they have left. It is revealed that the cinema dungeon is a movie theater located outside exit number 1 of Cheongmuro Station, and it consists of 9 floors in total, counting the 1 basement floor. Luckily for them, all the posters on floors 2 and 3 were torn, and Dokja is relieved that Inception has been clever and wonders how Younghyuk cleared Fighting Destination alone. After arriving on the 4th floor, they are inside their second movie. Jihai is not feeling well because of seasickness, and Dokja wonders how the naval warfare chose her. He remembers the point in the film where the ship sinks and Huiwen's get-up matches with the female lead. Jihai turns into the male barf when a man appears there, calling Gilyong Jeb Dawson. They are shocked to see that Gilyong is the film's male lead. Jihai says while watching him that all the lead characters have reached there and tied up the man from earlier, thinking he is the bad guy. Jihai says they should kill him, and when Dokja tries to stop him, she says the cinema master is all about action, and it would be better for them to just off him now. Huiwen says this is supposed to be a movie character, but the man looks like a real person. Jihai interrupts her and says this isn't time to get all sentimental, and it's either him or them. They are definitely alive, but he is just a character and a villain. She is ready to kill him, saying they have no choice, and stabs her sword in his chest. The notification appears there, saying the cinema master is somewhat pleased with their ending, and the door to the next floor has opened up at the stern. Jihai is happy she is right, and there is no time to waste since the master's life is at risk. They have reached the second ending credit, which was their nice and trick action, while Dokja is shocked at their actions. They have each received 500 coins for their performance, and Dokja is just stuck in a character and a real person. After some time, they entered 5F, the reward room, and Dokja thought there must not be any movies there. They are limited to 2 reward items per person, and it looks like this room was used to store props used in the film. Props and costumes were used by the actors who starred in various movies, but now they are no longer props. He thinks they may not be as good as a constellation artifact, but they are well-made copies and are great items. The reward was the reason he decided to come to the cinema dungeon. They see a sword there, named a grade sword, created by an artisan, a blacksmith, from the Heian period. Huiwon likes the sword and says it is magnificent, sharp, and light. Dokja asks her to take it and says she finally has a proper sword now. She is sad at thinking they can only take 2 items each from there, and he asks her to pick an item for Sangha as well, and he will choose one for Hyunseong. He then picked up the shield of Hercules replica, and the demigod Hercules used it. Suddenly, they are surprised to see Jihai struggling with the thunder god Thor's hammer, a grade of blunt weapon. He goes to her and says it is reserved for special people, but she claims that she is special too. In the meantime, Gilyoung goes near her and tries to pick up the hammer. She tries to stop him, saying it belongs to her, but they are shocked to see that he picks up the hammer with a little effort. He asks Dokja if it is okay to keep it, and he allows it, but Jihai is still shocked to see this. She thinks this is unfair to her, and Huiwin asks Dokja what he will take. He picks up an armor suit that looks stuffy, but should be better than nothing. He is notified that he has gained an additional 10% damage reduction, and his enemy detection skill has been enhanced. His armor suit is called a reinforced armor suit replica, which protects both the upper and lower body and is made of solid materials. They will now go and see what their regressor Younghyuk is up to. Unfortunately, Younghyuk was nowhere to be seen on floor 6, and he says there may be people who still haven't seen the movie. After some time, they were lucky enough to clear the last remaining movie on floor 6. It was a thriller with a twist ending, giving them a unique reward. They have acquired the skills of book and sharp observation. Dokja thinks it's not a combat skill, but it will be useful nonetheless, and they should catch up to Younghyuk any time now. The skill allows the user to approximate a character's overall stats, and it could be useful against characters like Sangha or Gilyoung, who are impervious to character profile. They find all the posters there have been torn as well, and this can only mean that Younghyuk is currently in the boss room. He hopes they don't find any more posters that are intact. They arrive in front of the poster, and the light falls on them with a notification that the screening will now begin on their floor. After some time, they reach the sea again, and he suddenly asks everyone to get down. There are many people already, and they start firing toward them. The bullets are coming from all around, and they all hide themselves behind the shield. Dokja thinks it's impossible not to know what movie this is as a Korean, and Younghyuk has left them one of the hardest movies to clear. Huiwen asks them to look toward the army of people and asks how they are supposed to beat them. Many ships are rushing toward them, and Dokja worries about seeing them, but thinks he must remain calm. He believes they may be outnumbered, but they can fight them since it is based on a historical battle. Suddenly, he felt someone's presence there and thought they were supposed to have 12 more ships. He goes to the man and asks him about the general, but he is shocked to see that the cinema master has changed the plot. Now they are supposed to win the Battle of Mongyang without General Sunsun Lee. He is worried about seeing Huiwen and Gilyoung and loudly calls Jihai, but she is nowhere to be seen. Sometime earlier, he had asked her why Admiral Lee had picked her when she got seasick, and she replied to him that she had heard she was a descendant of some admiral. He discovers that she is General Sunsun Lee's descendant, who can save them in the current situation. He thinks around episode 40 of TWSA when Jijai's relations with Admiral Sunsun Lee were revealed. The small number of readers that were still around got in arms about how a national hero chose his incarnation because of their relation. He is shocked to see her hiding at someplace. He goes to her and asks if she is all right, but she is crying and uttering some words, saying she won't ever do it. Dokja observes that she is not talking to him right now and asks her to get up, but she asks him to take care of the mess since she is not feeling well. He says he knows she is not like this because she is seasick, but it was her dead friend's favorite movie, which she killed herself. She is shocked to hear this and asks how he knows about this. Dokja thinks it's not just that he knows practically everything about her, but he also knows the real reason why he was picked by Admiral Sunsun Lee when he hated the sea and didn't really care for the greater good. He thinks Jihai is actually a descendant of Admiral Lee's comrade in arms, Eoki Lee. Along with Sunsun Lee, he led the Joseon army to victory in the battles of Danghongpo and Hansando. He was one of the few men who defended the great admiral when he was framed for treason. However, he didn't leave behind enough stories to become a major constellation. It was honorable for Admiral Sunsun Lee to have chosen his friend's descendant as his incarnation. He is sure he couldn't bear to watch his old friend's descendant turning into a demon after killing her friends. Suddenly, they are notified about a bounty scenario which says those who seek death shall live, and those who seek life shall die. They have a clear condition that the naval warfare god has called for their help, and they have to encourage Admiral Lee's incarnation Jihai and lead the Battle of Mongyang to victory. He will get one of the great admiral's stigmas as his reward, and Dokja is surprised that he gets to use his stigma without a support contract. Soon, the army ships surround them, and he tries to wake Jihai up and says there is no time to explain. He asks her if she is going to give up like this after she has killed her friends to survive, and if she will not be forgiven whether she lives or dies. He asks her to get up so she can save at least a few lives if she gets back up right now. In the meantime, the soldier sets fire to them, and he blocks the bullets with the help of his shield. He again calls Jihai and tries to wake her up while she remembers the time when she had a good time with her friend. She cries and says she doesn't deserve to live, and Dokja wonders if he is taking advantage of her. He thinks he is no different from Jihai, who killed her friends to survive, while he uses his knowledge of these characters to his advantage solely to remain alive. He tells her that the right to live isn't something she is given, and she must earn it while she is still alive. He says it doesn't matter whether she stones her past or keeps living a despicable life. What matters is that she has survived. He asks her if she wants to die there, and he is notified that he has an excellent understanding of Jihai and activates his level 2 omniscient reader's viewpoint. He reads her mind, in which she says she doesn't want to die and gets up with a determination. Dokja thinks constellations do as they please, and they don't always help their incarnations when they ask for help, and many of them don't even bat an eye when their incarnations die. However, no constellation misses a chance to help their incarnation when their story is involved. She gets up, and a notification appears there saying she has acquired a new stigma, and she activates her Ghost Fleet Level 1. Dokja thinks he has only ended up helping Younghyuk in the end, while Jihai believes she still has 12 ships left to fight with. Suddenly, a tornado occurs in the sea, and many splashing waves appear from the water. Jihai thinks she would happily die where she stands, and if she could have his vengeance. The underground ships appear from under the sea, which will help them fight the enemies. They are shocked and happy to see that Jihai has summoned them. In the meantime, her ancestor appears behind her, and she swings her sword in the air and is ready to fight them. While seeing them, the girl who doesn't cry takes command of the battlefield, and they all throw their attack toward the other ships. She uses her powerful stigma, Ghost Lee, which makes her Jihai a naval commander. It took no more than an hour to destroy all the other ships, and they all died or fell into the water. Now there is only one remaining enemy ship sank, and Huiwen and Dokja are shocked to see her power level. After some time, she destroyed every enemy ship and the cinema master in content with the new ending. They have now reached the 4th ending credit, receiving 500 coins for their performance. All the helping ships disappear again, and Huiwen gives her helping hand to Jihai, saying she did well. Gilyong also appreciates her, while Dokja thinks her stigma of the Great Admiral is so much overpowered, and she is too good to leave with Younghyuk. They are notified that the bounty scenario has been cleared, and Dokja thinks he is to receive one of the naval warfare god stigmas and may also get the ghost fleet. He is notified that he has received the naval warfare god stigma as a reward for completing the bounty scenario and has received the stigma sword song. He is shocked because Jae-hai won't obtain this stigma until much later in the story. It's probably much more useful to him that Ghost Fleet is, and he is relieved to have such a previous stigma. He thinks now he may stand a chance on 8F because of this, and Huiwen tells him they are returning to the theater. The constellation Naval Warfare God expresses his gratitude, and they are going back to the theater. According to Dokja, it was an excellent ending to the movie, and when they come back, he asks Jae-hai to rest there for a while, and they will go rescue Young-hyuk. She tries to resist, but he asks her to do just as he says, and she thinks there's no time to celebrate just because he obtained a new stigma. He thinks the cinema master isn't someone who he can face while looking after Jae-hai. After all he has done to save Jae-hai and earn a new stigma, it would be meaningless if this world ended from Young-hyuk's regression. He has used the ampules and the coins he saved to increase his stats sufficiently, and now he just hopes that Young-hyuk is fine. Soon, they entered the 8F, the Sky Garden, where he could see Young-hyuk from a distance. Huiwen recognizes him and asks if he is that guy Young-hyuk, and they wonder why he looks so fine. Dokja gets annoyed to see him fine and steps toward him. He then hits him from behind and thinks he would love to hit him some more, considering the trouble he went through, thinking he was in danger. But soon he feels something odd about Young-hyuk, and he calls him, but he doesn't respond. Huiwen says he may be angry because he hit him all of a sudden. But Dokja observes him from behind and thinks Young-hyuk died in the cinema dungeon on his 8th regression, not because he was weak, but it was because he was unlucky. In the meantime, the cinema master reveals himself, and Dokja knows that he is the final boss of Cinema Dungeon. Dokja is shocked that the boss of the Cinema Dungeon is the polar opposite of Young-hyuk, and right now he is an empty shell and the cinema master's puppet. He is notified that the cinema master has control over Young-hyuk, and he is ready to attack Dokja. He tries to wake him up and asks him to talk to him, but he thinks this is the worst-case scenario, and no character can stop him. In the meantime, Young-hyuk attacks him and pushes him at a distance by activating his Skill Force Plan Level 4. The attack was so harsh that his armor suit was damaged. His defense stat has been partially decreased. Huiwen tries to protect him and activates her skill, Demon Slaying Level 2. She jumps upon him from behind to attack, but Young-hyuk observes her presence and is ready to attack her. Dokja thinks Huiwen isn't strong enough to face Young-hyuk yet, and at the same time, when she tries to attack him, Young-hyuk grabs her hand and tries to attack her from the side. She reacts in time and dodges her attack, but he tries to attack her again, and this time he hits her leg and hand. She swings in the air, stands back on the ground, and thinks the fight isn't going to be easy. In the meantime, Young-hyuk activates his skill 100-Step Fist, Level 2, and hits her face again. At that moment, Jae-hai also follows them and is shocked to see them fighting. There is an explosion there, and she can see Young-hyuk has defeated Huiwen. Dokja and Gilyong shout from their places and ask her to watch out, but Young-hyuk reaches her is about to punch her face. She is shocked that her master is trying to attack her, and there is sudden explosion there. Dokja once read about sunfish, a bony fish found in the tropical ocean, which is sensitive to shock and dies very easily. Currently, when Young-hyuk tries to attack her, she reacts in time and dodges his attack. Dokja tells her that he is under the control of the cinema master right now and asks her to go for the cinema master. The cinema master is watching them amusingly, and Jae-hai rushes toward her to attack. But before that, Young-hyuk reaches her and punches her face. She starts bleeding and falls to the ground. In the meantime, Huiwen also comes for her help, and they both try to attack him at once. But Young-hyuk jumps from the ground, and they both are watching him shockingly. Huiwen has activated her skill, Time of Judgment, and Gilyong also started the skill, Thunder of Enjolnir. He uses his hammer and attacks Young-hyuk, but he creates a barrier and dodges the effect of thunder. He has neutralized the attack with immunity against electricity. The constellation of the pure good alignment remains silent against Hui Wenjiang's request, and she is shocked at the rejection of her request and wonders why her skill has been cancelled. Dokja thinks it was expected because he may be ruthless, but Younghyuk has always acted out for the greater good. He knew that he was strong, but not like this. He would try to kill his team members. He activates her personal skills character profile, which says there is too much information about this character, converting character profile to character summary. His character summary appears in front of him, and Dokja finds out that his transmission stigma has already been activated. It is a stigma that reactivates the skills that Younghyuk had learned during his past regressions. He is now counting on Gilyong and asks him if he knows what to do. He takes a potion, thinking he doesn't want to do this, and consumes the enraged T-Rex DNA ampule. His stats are amplified for a 30-minute duration, his body is gushing with vitality, and a mysterious power rages from within his heart. He then activates the personal skill White Star Weapon Aura Level 1 and thinks about what he lacks in skill and what he will make up for with stats. He is notified that the skill level for the White Star Weapon Aura has increased, and he thinks it will work since his skill levels aren't that high yet. Younghyuk activates the skill Blue Star Weapon Aura Level 2, and they both rush toward each other to attack. He calls him Sunfish and asks him to come at him, and their swords collide with each other, and the collision puts both of them away. He then rushes toward him to attack, while Dokja dodges his sharp and sudden moves. Dokja is barely able to keep up even with the boost in stats, and if he doesn't find a way soon, he will get defeated by him. He then activates his level 2 of Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint and blocks his sword with the help of his own sword. He reads his mind, in which Younghyuk is in pain and wonders how many more times he has to repeat this. Dokja observes that he has already given up and asks him to get a hold of himself. He tries to push him and calls him an idiot, while Younghyuk thinks everything will go back to the way it was if he regresses again. His companions will lose their memories, and the histories that he has existed in will be erased. Everything will repeat itself once again, and Dokja thinks the reason the cinema master can take control of Younghyuk is because of his unstable state of mind. His stats may be weak, but he is equipped with the most advanced mental attack skills, and none of this would have happened in Younghyuk's mental barrier skill because it was at least level 8. Younghyuk is now thinking about what he is fighting for, and Dokja says how he calls himself the main character when it is only his third regression. He believes he is the only living thing left in this world, and Dokja tells him that he promised himself not to think that. He attacks him, saying he vows to live for the greater good, and if he can no longer find the will to go on, he will be regressed again. He wonders whom he is speaking to right now, while his skin is burning up and his eyes are tearing up. He activates his personal skill, the fourth wall, while Younghyuk feels all alone and says he is not alone and they have gone through a lot to find a way to get there. He attacks him again, but Younghyuk blocks his attack. He then asks him how he is alone when he is there to help him, and he says when he died in the cinema dungeon like an idiot when he cried over his dead sister, and when she died after the prophet's betrayal. He asks her to remember his child with the person he loved for the first time, and when he went raving mad after his child died. He also asks him to remember when he fought the Demon King and opposed the returnees, and also helped the outer gods and fought against the reincarnated. He read all this in the TWSA novel and asked him to remember when he finally stood before the constellations. He says he has watched his struggle to survive. Younghyuk tries to attack him again, but Dokja blocks him and thinks he keeps reading so that he can stay. However, he believes he went a bit overboard because he was just supposed to stall for a time while Younghyuk again jumped upon him to attack. Their swords collide with each other, and there is a lot of destruction there. He then observes his eyes that he is in consciousness, and Younghyuk asks him about who he is. Dokja is shocked by the notification that the fourth wall is being shaken due to excessive immersion. He pushes him behind and wonders if he has come to his senses because of what he said and if it was that easy. In the meantime, the cinema master is flustered by what he just said, and he has strengthened his control over Young-hyuk. He grabs his head and again gets unconscious, while Dokja already expected this because there is no way it would have been this easy. This time, Young-hyuk's blue star weapon aura is growing stronger, and Dokja thinks it's so unfair to fight against the protagonist, and he can't believe he has become stronger in this short while. He calls him and asks if he remembers what he asked him before, and says he asked him for permission to punch him just once. He thinks Young-hyuk will be much stronger than him in the future. In the meantime, Gilyong is observing something and starts bealing his nose and mouth. Dokja activates his Unbreakable Faith's special property and changes the ether affix into the fire. He thinks he may be able to overpower him just this once and activates his Stigma Sword Song to attack him this time. In reality, the Sword Song is the naval warfare god Stigma, which is considered one of the most powerful combat buffs in existence. Its effect is randomized, so there is no telling how much boost he will be getting, but he will have to make do with it, given his situation. He is notified that a phrase left behind by the naval warfare god engulfs his sword, which states that amidst the raining arrows and the barrage of gunfire, Dokja thinks it is as if a thundering storm strikes the battlefield. He attacks him again, and this time Young-hyuk is affected by his attack and starts bleeding from multiple body parts. Dokja reaches the cinema master, but before he can attack him, Young-hyuk activates his skill, Resuscitation, level 2. Before he can shoot the cinema master, Young-hyuk comes in the way, and Dokja is shocked to see that he has recovered already. Dokja calls Gilyong, who seems to be in a very bad condition, but he has called a grade 6 monarch level insect, Titanoptera. The cinema master is shocked to see the insect, while Gilyong says hello to his insect. The insect is huge, and Young-hyuk tries to attack it. The cinema master smiles because he is protecting him. Dokja calls him from behind and asks why he is smiling about and appears from behind to attack him. The cinema master attempts to use the skill of mind control on him and tries to get over his mind. He thinks he has approached Dokja's mind, but is shocked to see an empty area there. In the meantime, Dokja activates his personal skill, the fourth wall, and hits the cinema master successfully. He is then notified that he is the first to defeat Simulation, the cinema master, and has received 9,000 coins for his achievement. Moreover, the clear condition for the hidden scenario has been met, and he has received 4,000 coins for his achievement. He is sure that he used his skill on him and wonders if he is okay because of the fourth wall. He rushes toward Gilyong, who gets unconscious, while the large insect has also defeated Young-hyuk. A notification appears saying the barrier surrounding the cinema dungeon is disappearing. After some time, the insect also leaves the place while he is just staring at Young-hyuk, who lies there in a state of unconsciousness. Huiwen comes to him and asks about his health, and he asks her about Jihai. They are fine, and with this, the third main scenario is drawing to an end, and it looks like they are almost done downstairs too. When they come outside, they are shocked to see that Seoul has been destroyed, and Gilyong shows them a shooting star, which looks so damn pretty. Dokja thinks shooting stars are an omen of an upcoming main scenario. It is said that a catastrophic nightmare is unparalleled by what they have experienced, and they will be waiting for them at the landing sites of those shooting stars around the world. He observes Gilyong prays to see the shooting star, and he asks Dokja if he will not make a wish. He replies that he has already made a wish, and he can't tell him because they say it won't come true if they tell the others what they wished for. Dokja thinks he wishes that he would survive to see the epilogue of a certain novel. However, a brand new hell is awaiting them after the sun rises. Currently, their hidden scenario has been completed, and at the same time, the main scenario, the emergency defense, has also been completed. They have received 1,000 coins for their achievements. Dokja is surprised to see the scenario has been completed, and the fourth main scenario will begin shortly. It hadn't even been 10 minutes since the third scenario ended, and he asked Jihai to stay there with Young-hyuk. He says she won't be any help down there right now, and he can also cause more problems if he wakes up because he wants to smack him on the head once more. When he comes back, Dokkaebi says he will be the cause of his death because he almost gave him a heart attack. Dokja asks him if he has filtered the chat because he might have said a bit too much earlier, and he replies that he has no intention of ruining his channel, and information like that gets filtered automatically. He thinks constellations have massive wealth and power, but are not all-knowing, meaning that they don't have all the information. If his guess is correct, then what he has said earlier would have been filtered like this to the constellations. He remembers when he discussed all the past incidents of Younghyuk and thinks it wouldn't have been any less severe than this because this is how they hid the fact that Younghyuk was a regressor in the early chapters of the novel. Dokkaebi asks him not to worry because of the constellation, and he doesn't even hear that much information. He wonders if this is a restriction put in place by the feasibility, and Dokkaebi says there were too many messages, so he blocked some of them out at his own discretion. Dokja asks him to show him the messages from the highest-paying constellations, and he is also notified that a few constellations that are searching for the truth have taken an interest in him. Moreover, the constellation's secretive plotter is intrigued by his presence and has gifted him 2,000 coins. Suddenly, they stop for a while, and Huiwen says she can carry Gilyong for a while because he seems tired. He gives Gilyong to her and asks Huiwen if she hears any of what he said earlier, and she replies that she heard all the conversation. Dokja is now worried because he thought she would be too far away to hear anything, while Huiwen also seems scared. She asks him who he really is and how he knows too much, and he replies that he knows the future partially. She is surprised and asks if Hyeonseong and Songhan know about this and asks him if he will kill her all of a sudden. Dokja shockingly asks why he will do that, and she replies this is what people do at times like these, and they say something like, people know too much and kill them. Dokja says if this were the case, then he would have killed all of them much earlier, and he didn't mean it like that. He tells her that the scenario up ahead will be even more dangerous. Their lives will be in danger, and they might risk losing something dear to them. For this, he wants them to be his side as always, and he asks her to be his companion.